It's day two of round one of the Prototype Cup Germany. Yesterday, we saw Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apostolos convert a pole position to a dominant race win here at the Hockenheimring. Hello everybody, welcome along to this, the second race of a 12-race season for the Prototype Cup Germany. It has been a story of wet weather at the start of this weekend, with a lot of rain falling, washing out free practice and affecting qualifying. But now things have dried up. We had a dry race yesterday, and although the blue skies that we saw for qualifying this morning have now clouded over, we're not expecting any rain this afternoon for this, the second of the two races this weekend. The Prototype Cup Germany, organised by the ADAC in collaboration with Creventic, and you can see the cars now, the LMP3 cars, are making their way around this circuit towards the grid, and it is a very interesting grid indeed. The man at the front after qualifying this morning was Valentino Catalano in the DKR Engineering Duquesne chassis car. So for this, the second season of Prototype Cup Germany, he is looking very strong indeed. He didn't have a great day yesterday, came home in 6th place along with teammate Robin Rogowski, so certainly a big upturn in form today. But yesterday's winners, Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apostolos, have had a good qualifying session again. It was Julian Apostolos who took to the wheel this morning in qualifying and earned a 3rd place on the grid. They were so rapid yesterday afternoon. The gap at one point was somewhere around 12 seconds, so a long way up the road. Will be interesting to see what they can do from 3rd place on the grid. Second home yesterday was Marcus Pommer and Gary Hauser. They converted a 3rd place start to a 2nd place finish. Marcus Pommer, especially a driver who is very experienced around here at the Hockenheimring, getting back into the German scene, really. He's a 6 times ADAC GT Masters winner, and he knows all of the circuits, and he wanted to have more of a media presence in Germany. The last few years has been in the ELMS series, raced for BHK Motorsport in that particular series. But due to the big costs, BHK Motorsports are not in ELMS this year. And Marcus really wanted to come back into the German scene, get himself noticed and get himself making the headlines. And that's exactly what he did yesterday, converting their 3rd place start, along with Gary Hauser, into a 2nd place finish. 3rd yesterday was Matthias Luton and Lawrence Herr. Matthias Luton, who is the current trophy champion, he won that last year, sealed that championship here at the Hockenheimring at the end of the first ever season for the ADAC and Creventic Prototype Cup Germany series. It has been so good to welcome the LMP3 categories as regular showers in Germany. And you can see the cars lining up there on the grid. Very shortly we will get this race underway. Looking there at the number 8 car, that is being driven by Gustavo Kirilla, and he shares with Nico Gerler in the very distinctive BWT livery. There are 8 Duquesne chassis on the grid today. The Duquesne D08, very much the weapon of choice for many of these teams. Also for Ligiers, the JSP 320. And also 3 Ginettas, the G61 LTP3. They are just 3 of 6 build Ginetta chassis. So really unique to have the 3 different brands in the LMP3 series here, as we say hello to Gustav Kirilla. But yesterday, not a great day for Ginetta. All 3 of their cars failing to make it to the finish. So there's been a bit of head scratching overnight, a bit of work done, and those cars have been rectified and hoping to go the distance today here in race 2 at the Hockenheimring. We also had some penalties given out yesterday. 3 drivers had times added to their finishing times, and that reduced them back down the order. Marco Kasich and Jan Marszałkowski, they had 10 seconds added to their time for track limits issues. There was 15 seconds added to Elias Sperandio's time, and there was 5 seconds added to Martin Andersson's time. So Martin Andersson was relegated from 9th to 10th place. Elias Sperandio was relegated from 5th to 7th place. Marszałkowski and Kasich, they actually retained their 11th place despite the 10-second time penalty. There was also a drive-through penalty issued to one of our lady drivers on the grid, Gabriela Zilkova. So Gabby not having the most successful time in the number 5 car that you can see there. And Gabriela will be kicking off and taking the first stint in the driving seat. The number 5 car that finished 5th yesterday and starts 5th on the grid today will be looking to break the chain of number 5s and perhaps make it a 4, 3, 2 or 1. Gabriela Zilkova, who is sharing with Lucas Maron in the JVO Racing Duqueine D08. JVO, one of many new teams on the grid of Prototype Cup Germany. Obviously not new to German racing. Jörg van Orman, a legend in German motorsport. The JVO Racing team, though, decided that Prototype Cup Germany is a great place to stretch their legs this year. They are joined by Aust Motorsport. There's another legendary name, Frank Aust, who has been in all sorts of GT racing categories over the years and now into the Prototype Cup Germany, amongst other series. And we are very, very excited to have Aust Motorsport on the grid. It's Dino Steiner and Konstantin Skoll who drive the Ligier that is operated by Aust Motorsport. Another legendary name, Franz Conrad, the Conrad Motorsport cars, and that is one of their Sebastian von Gartzen in the number 22 car. A very strong combination because he is teamed up with Maximilian Hacklander, and if it wasn't for the issues they had with the Ginetta, would have figured more prominently yesterday, but it was a non-finish for the 2 German drivers. Today, they look to make amends for that, starting 10th on the grid. So a bit of work to do from a little way back. These cars, well, they've all got identical engines. There's the 3 different chassis that we've spoken about, but the mighty Nissan VK56 engine, it's a 5.6 litre engine, creating about 455 brake horsepower. It's sealed by the manufacturers, it's naturally aspirated, and the ground absolutely shakes. There is nothing quite like the sound of a full grid of LMP3 cars accelerating down the straight here at Hockenheim. It really is very spectacular. Looking at Nico Silva there, he didn't even get a run in the car yesterday. Another of the Ginettas with Conrad Motorsport that didn't make it to the end. Danny Sufi was at the wheel, had to retire with mechanical issues, and Nico Silva, the American driver, didn't even get a stint in the driving seat. He qualified the car this morning, and so he will get to drive it, but he's got a bit of work cut out because he's down 11th place on the grid, so a bit of work to do from there. You can see confirmation of our grid, and it is Valentino Catalano and Gary Hauser who occupy the front row ahead of Julian Apostolos and Gustavo Kirilla, ahead of Gabriela Zilkova, Konstantin Skoll, Martin Andersson, his first time in LMP3 racing alongside Jan Marszałkowski. Those are 2 names that will be very familiar to anybody who follows anything ADAC related. In fact, the row in front as well, Gabriela Zilkova and Konstantin Skoll, regular protagonists in the various categories in the ADAC series. Martin Andersson, a solo driver, so there will be the mandatory pit stop halfway through the race, but Martin Andersson will not be getting out. He will have to make a minimum pit stop time, though, to fit in with the regulations. Jan Marszałkowski, a winner in ADAC GT Masters last year. He qualified the car on row 4 of the grid, 8th place this morning. Good job by him. He had a good race yesterday, was coming through the pack, then had a spin and dropped all the way back, but certainly impressed on his debut in the LMP3 category. And he will be looking to make amends from that. Keep an eye on the MRS GT racing car, the Molitor Racing Systems number 14 Ligier, because he will be looking to push forward from there. There's confirmation of the rest of the grid. Lawrence Herr, Matthias Luton, Maxi Hacklander, Sebastian von Gartzen ahead of Danny Sufi and Nicolas Silva, Jakob Elbacher and Courtney Krohn, who didn't get a drive yesterday because of reliability issues, ahead of father and son Max van der Snel and Mark van der Snel, with Kevin Roscheit and Wolfgang Payer bringing up the rear just ahead of Elio Sperandio, who had issues this morning in qualifying and did not put in a time, so he starts stone last on the grid, which means he's got a lot of work to do. He was very impressive yesterday. He did cop a 15-second penalty, and that really did ruin his day a little bit, and that was for exceeding track limits. But the young Charger is definitely one to watch, the Swiss driver who will impress as this season goes on. Of that I have no doubt. If it wasn't for budget, he may well have been in one of Formula Racing and have moved up the categories, but a big budget's required to make it in single-seater racing. He's gone down the LMP3 route, and we welcome him here for the British-based BHK Motorsport. You can see the safety car with the yellow flag out of the window circulating around the circuit. We are at the Hockenheimring. It is a circuit that is 4.574 kilometres around, about 2.842 miles, with 17 turns. 9 of them to the right, 8 to the left. Lots of overtaking opportunities. The main one, though, I would say, is out of the Parabolica and in towards turn 6, which is the hairpin. It is a 180-degree turn. It's a great overtaking opportunity. It's also a great crashing opportunity. So the drivers, ever the brave to make a move going into the hairpin. You can see the cars now gridding up. It will be 55 minutes of racing plus 1 lap with a mandatory pit stop. Every driver will need to visit the pits. There will be a minimum time of 85 seconds plus a handicap time depending on their FIA grading. And the pit window will open about 22 minutes into the race and will remain open for 10 minutes. So around the last of the corners, that's turn 17, the cars come. We are now getting ready for the start of race 2 of this 12-race season. This is the ADAC Creventic LMP3 Prototype Cup Germany, and we are go. And it's a great start for the number 15 car, just trying to get in front, but it's Valentino Catalano who now works his way to the lead of this race. We just saw one of the Conrad Motorsports cars taking to the curbs and getting a little bit airborne, but it is Catalano who leads the pack into the first turn. The rest of the cars come streaming around. Gary Hauser in the number 15 car. A good start from Gustav Kirillat as well, but here we go, some side-by-side racing further back down the order. This is the Parabolica. It is a corner, but it is taken absolutely flat out, these LMP3 cars, generating loads of downforce, and then the heavy braking. Look at that, 4 abreast into the hairpin. Are they going to make it? No, they're not. It's Martin Anderson that's gone. One of the Conrad Motorsport cars has gone as well. It gets going, and it looks like, now who is that has spun? I think it might be Gabriel Jakova who has spun out on that corner. Always a chaotic corner, and the first lap, a lot of optimistic moves from several drivers. Martin Anderson, and it looks like Gabriel Jakova, who have not made it around that first corner. It looks like everybody has been able to rejoin, but a lively first lap, and there's going to be some work to do from further down in the pack. So there is Elio Sperandio, who we talked about, who started last. He would have benefited from some of those cars going spinning on the hairpin. He is making his move through the order as well. So we are only 90 seconds into this race and already high drama. It's Valentino Catalano who leads the way in the number 77 car, ahead of car number 15, Gary Hauser, who did momentarily show as a leader on the timing screens. Now look at Elias Sperando as he tries to make a move on Courtney Crone. Courtney Crone having a first stint behind the wheel of that car, having not made it into the seat yesterday. Now under braking, once again we come. Martin Andersson rushing to join the back of that queue, following that spin, half spin at the start of the race. So the car's now heading along the parabolica towards the hairpin once again. And Elia Sperando doing a great job working through the traffic. Martin Andersson, the current TCR Germany champion, who is doing a great job getting used to LMP3 racing and is certainly getting to grips with it very well, makes the move past Courtney Crone in the Gebhardt Motorsport Ginetta. So there is Martin Andersson, currently showing in 10th place on our screens, and Martin Andersson will be looking to make progress from there. It was a very late entry for Andersson into the Prototype Cup Germany, and he has had to learn the ropes pretty quickly as he has got used to this series. We can see Gabriel Jokova coming through. There's a car that's run wide onto the dirt. It regathers it all up together again. That is Mark van der Snel, the father of Max, who is doing the first stint in this car, the More Motorsport by Reiter Ligier. A little moment onto the dirt, and he regathers it all up in 13th place and continues on his way, but now of course that's down to 14th place because of that moment. Looking at the timing screens, a driver who's had a very bad start was Julian Apotelos, and the championship leader, yesterday's winner, dropping down the order. We'll have another look at the moment because we're taking another look at the restart, and we're going to have a look to see what did happen to Julian Apotelos. Was he one of the cars that got caught up in that first lap spin? You can see the cars as they headed up towards the hairpin. Right, well, it is Gabriel Jokova who's up into 5th place. So I think it was the identical JVO racing car, not Gabriel Jokova, but Julian Apotelos, who was the car that spanned the two identical cars. And Julian Apotelos was the driver who got caught up in that incident, not Gabriel Jokova. So he is the one with all the work to do to fight his way back through the pack, and that is very significant indeed for the driver that won the race yesterday. So competing for positions past Courtney Crone, and behind them is the number 2 of Nico Silva. So a lot of work to be done from these drivers that got caught up early on in the incident at the start of this race. Courtney Crone, very much a baptism of fire for the racer from the USA. She's having to learn the ropes as the race is going on because she did not get a stint in the driving seat yesterday. So completing another lap, it's still Valentino Catalano who leads the way ahead of Gary Hauser. In 3rd place, it's Gustavo Kirilla, and in 5th place it is the number 22 car, Sebastian von Gartzen. There is the number 2, Nico Silva, there in 11th place, running on his own in the Conrad Motorsport car. And the rest of the field are coming through, starting to space out a bit now. And some of the chaos of the opening lap is now settling down. So the cars will need to make a mandatory stop and driver change. Except for 2 cars, they will have to make the mandatory stop, but they won't do the driver change. That is Elias Sperando and also Martin Andersson. They are solo drivers. Each car needs to be stationary in the pits for a certain amount of time. In fact, it's from pit entry to pit exit, a minimum pit stop time of 85 seconds. There is then a handicap applied to the drivers depending on what category they are. We have drivers that are bronze, drivers that are silver, and a driver that is gold rated. That is the FIA categorizing of the drivers. And depending on the driver combination will depend on the handicap that is added to their pit stop time. The number 22 car, the Conrad Motorsports car of Sebastian von Gartzen, continuing to circulate in 5th place. But it's Konstantin Skol, a driver that we have seen many times here at the Hockenheimring. We've seen him in GT Masters. We see him here in LMP3, the Prototype Cup Germany, now challenging for that 5th place. So continuing along the track towards the hairpin in a moment. It's the flat out section, then the heavy braking, and not making a move at the moment. Just behind is Jan Marszałkowski, the driver who was very impressive yesterday, but for that spin running in 7th place. Certainly a good showing from him. Number 8 car, BWT Lechner. No, BWT Mucker Motorsport. I beg your pardon. So many BWT cars in these series. The Mucker Motorsport car with Gustavo Kirilla at the wheel in the 3rd place, and behind Jörg van Orman's car with Gabriel Jokova. Gabby, who was not the car involved in that first lap incident, in the identical liveried car to that of yesterday's winner. And that, of course, has Julian Apostolos at the wheel. We're going to keep an eye on the number 6 car, currently up to 10th place. Now, what kind of repair work can Julian Apostolos do after that earlier incident? We'll keep one eye on that. We'll keep another eye on this great battle between Gustavo Kirilla in the number 8 car and Gabriel Jokova in the number 5 car. Further back, there is the aforementioned Julian Apostolos along with Martin Andersson. They both got caught up in that first lap incident on the hairpin. It's Martin Andersson in the number 21 Mullner Motorsport Duquesne who leads that particular battle at the moment in 9th place. Apostolos will be looking to make amends for the first lap incident. Very much a championship favourite along with Oscar Tunyo. This year, his co-driver now moves to the inside. Heavy braking into the hairpin. Martin Andersson, well, I was going to say he wisely gave him space, but actually he powers it around the outside. And now the drag race around turn 7, which is taken flat out. And still, Apostolos are challenging hard. Soon they're going to come up into the turn 8. There it is. It's a sharp left-hand turn. And Martin Andersson holds on to that position. He has really taken to this series well. He was the TCR Germany champion from 2022, still the reigning champion in that, and has jumped across to something altogether different from his Honda Civic that he was driving on the circuits last year. You can see him really fighting. He went wide into the corner, but holds it all together. The back end just sliding slightly further back. There is a big challenge for 5th place. The 22 car of Sebastian von Gartzen. He has a queue of cars behind him. And they are all fighting to get past, none more so than Konstantin Skol in the Aust Motorsport Ligier. Behind Konstantin Skol is Jan Marszałkowski, and behind Marszałkowski is Elias Barandio. So lots of talent in that queue of cars, currently being led by Sebastian von Gartzen. We saw him last year in the Prototype Cup Germany, made a good account of himself, and very much the potent combination along with co-driver Maximilian Hacklander. Now Martin Andersson and Julian Apostolos going side by side once again, now this time in the same place. The best overtaking opportunity. Apostolos proves that is the case as he sails past Martin Andersson. Andersson, though, picking up a slipstream as they head around towards turn 7 and under-braking towards turn 8, but he's too far back to do anything about it. So Julian Apostolos moves up into 9th place in Jörg van Orman's Duquesne D08, relegating the 21 car of Martin Andersson. So the Danish driver doing well, and a fairly solid performance here but the experience of Julian Apostolos behind the wheel of that LMP3 just coming out the better in that particular fight. Along the pit straight we come once again. Our focus is back on Sebastian von Gartzen as he holds on to that 5th place with Konstantin Skol behind him. Jan Marszałkowski and Elias Sparandio in the queue. Now you get the feeling this is going to change before too long, don't you? There's a good slipstream that has been picked up by the number 3 car, although he drops back a bit now, but it is absolutely full beans around the parabolica in towards the best overtaking spot, but they all look to be a little bit too far back to make a move. It looks like Marszałkowski was tempted by the gap on the inside, but decided that discretion was the better part of valor in this instance. He was not happy with the mistake that he made yesterday, spinning round onto the grass, and really does not want to be in that kind of situation again. The number 35 car, Elias Sparandio behind, has been very impressive. The solo driver in the number 35 BHK Motorsport Ligier. I'm not sure what it was that took him out of qualifying this morning, but he is certainly fighting back with all that he's got in the 8th position that he's currently in. We have a little under 42 minutes of this race remaining, and there's a car that's peeling into the pits, and I have no indication of a drive-through penalty, but it looks as though there might have been something awarded. I don't think there's a mechanical issue, but Konstantin Skol peeling off into the pits and running slowly through the pits. So the number 3 car dropping out of the battle. We do have an investigation going on for the incident at turn 6, and I'm wondering whether he was given a penalty as a result of that. Anyway, he rejoins, but I've had no indication of what the issue might be for the number 3 car of Konstantin Skol. It's dropped in a long way down the order, though. Drive-through penalty for the Aus Motorsport car, and suddenly he's all the way down the pack in 8th place, showing at the moment as he comes out of the pits after that drive-through. So this battle, which did involve 4 cars, it's now down to 3 cars. It is still Sebastian von Gartzen with Jan Marszałkowski and Elias Sparandio queuing up behind. Now, without the pressure of the Aus Motorsport car behind, Jan Marszałkowski will feel a little bit more liberated to perhaps challenge a bit harder the car in front, because there's less of a risk of losing more places. And at the moment, Sparandio is just a little bit too far back to make a move on Marszałkowski, so will be interesting to see whether he challenges Sebastian von Gartzen. So here we go, looking down at the circuit, and that is Martin Andersson that is going slowly there. And what is going on with the Martin Andersson car? Now, has he got a problem? It looks like he has. A 21 car circulating slowly around towards turn 17. Again, he has been given a track limit warning, but it does not look like he is up to pace at the moment. So I wonder if there is an issue for the Molnar Motorsport Duqueine D08 as he circulates around. We'll keep an eye on that one as well. There is Courtney Crone, the American driver, in 12th place. And a lot of traffic and a lot of fighting. This is Jan Marszałkowski now trying to make his challenge on Sebastian von Gartzen, but Sparandio has closed up as well. He has his eyes on Marszałkowski. He looks to the inside, then to the outside. So Marszałkowski, he did have an opportunity to perhaps make a move on Sebastian von Gartzen while there was space behind, but now with Sparandio behind, he is going to struggle to get past and not allow Sparandio through as well. So Marszałkowski is going to have to tread lightly and plan really well as Sebastian von Gartzen just locks a wheel up slightly, heading around turn 13 and 14. And now into the last couple of corners of the circuit, out of 17 onto the pit straight. This is a overtaking opportunity, not the best one, but it is an overtaking opportunity. I think Marszałkowski's too far back in this instant. Around turn 1 they go. They will have turns 2 and 3, and then maybe out onto the Parabolica is when Marszałkowski is going to try and make a move on Sebastian von Gartzen. So this is the challenge for 5th place. It has been raging for a while. We've lost Konstantin Skol out of the battle as a result of that drive-through. And now, here we go, out onto the very fast, flat-out Parabolica. It is turn 5, but it's not much of a turn. They take it flat. Now Marszałkowski to the outside, under braking. Is he going to try and go round the long way? Sperandio's there, ready to pounce as well. Marszałkowski ducks back to the inside. Now a drag race out towards turn 7. Here they come, absolutely, foot to the floor. Then towards turn 8 in just a few moments. Marszałkowski has made it stick. Can he get it slowed down? Yes, he can. Jan Marszałkowski, a fantastic move up into 5th place. Brilliant driving from the German driver. Jan Marszałkowski, proving that you can overtake well here at the Hockenheimring, and he makes the move past the number 22 car and takes that position away. This is our leader. We haven't said much about him at the moment because Valentino Catalano has opened up a gap of 3.3 seconds over Gary Hauser and continues very much to hold that lead in his grip. And nobody getting anywhere near him at the moment. Is Valentino Catalano looking to make up for yesterday's 6th place, which was disappointing for him, ahead of Gary Hauser, the Luxembourg driver for racing experience in the number 15 car, the Duqueine D08. Gary Hauser, who is sharing with Marcus Pommer. Marcus Pommer, a very useful driver, but he will be taking over the wheel of that car. You just saw them putting a lap on Wolfgang Peyer, who is teamed up with Kevin Roscheit in the Racing Experience Duqueine, the number 12 car, currently in 13th place. We can see, just as a point of interest, that Martin Andersson is into the pits. It's looking pretty terminal in terms of points scoring today. Another car that we've lost has been the number 72 car, Matthias Luton, the current trophy champion. You can see from the timing screens that he is also into the pits. So we've lost 2 cars, and 2 very strong cars of the field. Matthias Luton and Lawrence Herr in the number 72 car, and also Martin Andersson in the Molnar Motorsport Duqueine D08. Now there's a bit of smoke coming from that car. I don't know whether that is as a result of just bottoming out or whether there is an issue with Courtney Crone's Ginetta. We do know the Ginettas did have some big issues yesterday, and Courtney Crone not really looking especially rapid at that point. So we take a look a little bit further back to 3rd place, and that is Gabriel Jilkova. Gabby working hard to try and close in on Gary Hauser, putting a lap on the back-marking car of Wolfgang Peyer. And Gabby currently in that 3rd place. She has been a proper entertainer over the years. We've had her in ADAC GT4 for several seasons, and always a popular driver with the fans. The blonde-haired Gabby, who is just such a great racer and does never back off for anybody. There's Elio Sperandio. It looks as though he may have made a move. Yes, he has. So Sperandio has got past Sebastian von Gartzen while we were looking at Gabriel Jilkova, and now the von Gartzen car has Julian Apostolos as well, challenging for position. So Julian Apostolos looking to make up for that earlier incident, up to 8th place at the moment, and it looks like 7th place could well be his before too long. Really needs to get up the order. A bit of a wobble there under braking, but he and Oscar Tunyo, well, Tunyo took his first win. They both took their first win in the series yesterday, but Tonio, who was running in Prototype Cup Germany last year, managed a couple of second places but never made it to the top step of the podium. And a spin on the first lap of the race was not in their game plan when they got out of bed this morning. They really want to get back on top of this and retain their championship lead. Valentino Catalano continues to lead. 4 seconds now is the gap over Gary Hauser, but this is the fight for 7th place. The Conrad Motorsport Ginetta, driven by Sebastian von Gartzen, recorded a non-finish yesterday, and now Julian Apotelos is planning on relegating it down the order a little bit far back at the moment as they head along the Parabolica. Once again, the best overtaking opportunity, but it does take some courage, particularly to go round the outside. And Apotelos just taking a look at the moment. Maybe next time around, the ever-impressive Elio Sperandio has jumped up to that 6th place and will be looking to home in on Jan Marszałkowski. You can see the gap at the moment is 2.4 seconds. Both Marszałkowski and Sperandio, real young chargers in motorsport. Both drivers very, very entertaining. But this fight continues to rage on. Sebastian von Gartzen and Julian Apotelos. Julian, that we saw in TCR Germany a couple of years ago and has been stretching his legs in GT World Challenge Europe, in ADAC GT4, and also featured in the Nürburgring 24-hour race. He goes to the outside. The cars are peeling into the pits because the pit window has just opened, and the 22 car going for an early pit stop. So it is Sebastian von Gartzen who jumps into the pits, and also the number 8 car, Gustav Kurila, is in as well. And also we just can see Wolfgang Peyer, who will be handing over to Kevin Rorscheit. So pit window open, the cars come to a stop. There are a limited number of crew who are allowed to work on the car, and that is what they do. One driver out, the other driver in. They help each other in and out. Different builds of driver. I'm loving the guys straddling the bonnet of that number 22 car. Bit of a car wash while they're at it. It's not for vanity reasons, it's so they can see out of that windscreen. A lot of dead flies and goodness knows what else. Blocking the driver's view, checking the tyre pressures. All is good. So von Gartzen is out of the car, and it's Maximilian Hacklander who jumps in. And Hacklander, a very experienced pilot. You can see behind that it's also Mark van der Snel. They've gone early in the pit window, handing over to Max van der Snel. I don't think I've been rude in saying that Max is probably the quicker of the two, father and son team, and I think they wanted to get Max in the seat as soon as possible to make up places. Our leader, Valentino Catalano, my prediction is that he will stay out till quite late in the window, and before he hands over to Robin Rogowski. I'm probably very wrong on that one, but it would seem to me to make sense to keep him out as long as possible. Wolfgang Peyer has given way to Kevin Rorscheit, so they are a bronze driver combination, both bronze categories, and it means that they get to have a shorter pit stop. They do not take a pit lane penalty as a result of their driver grading. Max Hacklander rejoining the track at the moment, a little way down the order, showing in 10th place. But of course, we've still got a number of cars that are yet to peel off into the pits for their mandatory stop. Every car must stop. They are not allowed tyre changing unless there's a puncture or unless it starts raining. Tyre changes are not allowed in this category. So we continue with Catalano leading the way of this race in the DKR Engineering Duquesne. There is the number 5 car. It's Gabrielle Gilkova, who will be handing over to Lucas Maron in just a few moments before the pit window closes. And the number 5 car running in that 3rd place at the moment. Again, a driver that you would suggest would want to stay out till quite late in the pit window. Courtney Crone, her weekend is now done as she hands over to Jakob Erlbacher, the driver who is fairly local to this Hockenheimring. He jumps into the car, the Austrian driver. He is into the Gebhardt Motorsport Ginetta, and he will take over the wheel of the number 70 car from Courtney Crone. So you can see the order on your screen at the moment, but remember there are still a number of cars that will need to pit. You can see the little P next to the driver's name to say they are in the pits. Two of those that don't look like they're coming out again, Martin Anderson, and very significantly Lawrence Herr and Matthias Luton in the number 72 Quarren Kempe Motorsport Duquesne, and it looks like they are done for the day. There is Kevin Rohrscheidt, and he has taken over from Wolfgang Peyer in the number 12 car, currently on his outlap. So the race continues, very much on its way. Here comes number 2, and that is Nico Silva, who will be handing over to Danny Sufi. It's an all-American driver pairing in the Conrad Motorsport Ginetta. And into the pits comes the number 2 car. So the 2 Silva drivers mean that they have an additional 20 seconds on top of their 85-second pit stop, because they are both experienced drivers. A great view from inside that car, and you get to see just quite what the inside of an LMP3 car looks like. Right, who's this into the pits now? It's one of the JVO cars, and into the pit lane, keeping to the speed limit of 60 kilometers an hour. And then into the pit box, it's Gabrielle Jokova, who will be handing over to Lucas Moron. Out of the car she gets, hurl the seat insert across the pit lane, and now Lucas Moron ready, seat in hand, getting ready to jump in. Not quite as panicky as in some pit stops because of the minimum pit stop time. 2 Silva drivers, meaning 20 seconds added to the pit stop time. The minimum pit stop time. So our screens are saying Robin Rogowski in the number 77 car, and so he is the teammate of Valentino Catalano. We didn't see him come into the pits, so I think we might be a little bit optimistic putting that name up there at the moment. I think, if I might be wrong, I normally am, that it's Valentino Catalano who still is at the wheel of the number 77 car, but we will confirm that in a few moments. That is Gary Hauser in the number 15 car, who peels off into the pits, ready to hand over to Marcus Pommer, and there is our race leader, Valentino Catalano / Robin Rogowski. Now into the pits comes the 77 car. No, out of the pits comes the 77 car, and it is going to be Robin Rogowski at the lead of that race once it is taken over from Valentino Catalano. Confused? Yes, I know, so am I. Marcus Pommer is into the number 15 car. I think some of the graphics might have been a bit optimistic today. There is that number 15 car, the Racing Experience Duquesne Do 8. Gary Hauser giving way to Marcus Pommer. Once again, the mechanic straddles the car to clean the window and make sure that the driver has a good view once they come out of the pits. There is the number 77 car in the distance. So the cars are all fairly well spaced out on the circuit at the moment. There don't appear to be any side-by-side battles going on at this point, but that may well change before too long. And there is the 77 car once again continuing on its way. Marcus Pommer in the Racing Experience Duquesne at the wheel. Here is the 77 car coming round now. The 77 car is around turn 16, turn 17, and out onto the pit straight. A big moment now, cuts back into the pits. So here comes Valentino Catalano. Oh, I was right, there's a change. Robin Rogowski will be taking over that car across the pit lane entrance, keeping to the speed limits. Look at this, bit of drifting, power on. Was that a last-minute decision to come into the pits? It was a bit last minute, but the pit window is about to close, so really cutting it close to the edge of the pit window. Now Valentino Catalano jumps out and Robin Rogowski jumps in. So our leader into the pits. Now the question is, where will they come in relation to Marcus Pommer? So Pommer is back out on the circuit at the moment, having taken up from Gary Hauser. The wash and blow dry is given to the DKR Engineering Duquesne. Swapping of notes between Valentino Catalano and Robin Rogowski. Rogowski, the Polish driver who we have seen in ADAC GT4 in the last year, now given the car. Now it's a bit of a ravel up going up in the pits here. They're having to push it back because the number 3 car of Konstantin Skoll is blocking the way out. I think they're still well within their time that they need to be stationary anyway, but they have to push the car back. You do not want to be obscured by the car in front. Konstantin Skoll, who has done an excellent job in the Aus Motorsport Ligier, now handing over to Dino Steiner. So at the moment, the car that has led the way is into the pits. Where will they come out in relation to Marcus Pommer in the Racing Experience Duquesne, the number 15 car? You can see the 1, 2, 3 in the pits at the moment, and then we will see where they emerge in relation to car 15. Now 15 at the moment running along the pit straight and out past the pit exit, and the 77 car is showing as ahead. So it looks as though Robin Rogowski has managed to get out of the pits ahead of Marcus Pommer when he came round, and will retain that lead. The car 14, which was driven by Jan Marszałkowski, is now in the hands of Marco Kasich for MRS GT Racing. And if the screens are correct, it looks as though they might have been the real beneficiaries of the pit stop window. Where did they come from? Just creeping up. Jan Marszałkowski had been lapping very rapidly and had handed over to Marco Kasich. So we're just going to wait for the timing screens to make sure that it is correct. But it could be that MRS GT Racing has really come out on top as a result of those pit stops. And Aus Motorsport down into 3rd place with Dino Steiner at the wheel. And looking to see where Marcus Pommer is. Well, at the moment, showing as 4th place. So if that remains to be true, then that really would have been a fairly disastrous pit stop for them. But we're just going to wait for the cars to cross the line just to set all the timing screens correctly. And a very wide line for Marco Kasich in the number 14 car. So Marco Kasich, who has taken over from Jan Marszałkowski. Now we correct a little bit, and yes, the timing screens were being a little bit optimistic there, so it is still Marcus Pommer who holds on to that 2nd place. It does often, when we've had this pit stop window, take a lap just to settle things down and to see the order. But still, the number 14 car has made very good progress during that pit window. And with 20 minutes of this race remaining, it is Robin Rogowski who leads the way in the number 77 car, ahead of Marcus Pommer in the number 15 car. And then in 3rd place, Lucas Maron in the number 5 car. But look at this, BWT, that is the Gustav Kirilla car. And also in there, having taken over Julian Apostolos, is Oscar Tunjo. Oscar Tunjo, who knows his way around an LMP3 car and is looking to find his way around Gustav Kirilla. A challenge towards the hairpin didn't happen there, but now flat out around turn 7 towards turn 8, they will come under heavy braking. It'll be the sharp left-hand turn. At the moment, it is Gustav Kirilla who holds on to that 4th place, but for how much longer? Because Oscar Tunjo is looking very rapid. A good comeback for Tunyo and Apotelos after that first lap incident. And now menacing the number 8 car. 19 minutes remaining. How much progress can the number 6 JVO Racing Duquesne make? We're going to find out. He hits the curbs a little bit, loses a bit of time, and then comes back again. So, number 8. Gustav Kirila in the very lively BWT pink car, putting another lap onto the Racing Experience Duquesne with Kevin Rorschach at the wheel. So very much the closest battle on the track. This is for 4th place. Gustav Kirila with Oscar Tunyo behind. And that little moment he had earlier in the lap, perhaps dropping him back a little bit too far to challenge on this instance going into the hairpin. But that BWT Muka Motorsport Duquesne is very rapid indeed. And now they head once again in towards the aforementioned hairpin. And the sharp 180. So, Apotelos and Tunyo have shared that number 6 car. Tunyo at the wheel now, a little bit too far back to do anything about it at the moment. Behind them is Marco Kasich, who briefly showed a 2nd place on the timing screens, but now in a more realistic 6th place ahead of Maximilian Hacklander. Now, Hacklander is 4.8 seconds back from Kasich, and we'll see what he can do from there. And there, Oscar Elia Sperandio in 8th place. Also keeping a waking watch, 1.4 seconds back from Hacklander. Sperandio has been very impressive from the back of the grid in this race. It is Robin Rogowski who leads the way, but only 0.8 of a second from Marcus Pommer. So Pommer is closing in on the race leader. In 5th place, Lucas Moron is very much running on his own. Our focus at the moment on the number 8 and number 6 fight. Nico Gerler, I beg your pardon, who took over from Gustavo Kirila. So, of course, Nico Gerler took over from Gustav Kirila, the number 8 car ahead of Oscar Tunyo. So the driver change did happen, of course, in the number 8 car, and it is Nico Gerler. There is Elias Sperandio, who continues his march forwards. Into the pits is Danny Sufi, who took over from Nico Silva. So that is not a scheduled pit stop. We've given a last warning to Jakob Erlbacher in the number 70 car for track limits. That's been issued by our race stewards. And there is the number 70 car that was issued that track limits warning. So any more exceeding of track limits, and that car may well get a drive-through penalty. There is Nico Gerler in the number 8 car with Oscar Tunyo behind. Now, Nico Gerler, who came through ADAC Formula 4, a very useful driver, but Oscar Tunyo is more experienced in LMP3 racing, and he's putting that to good use now. Out of turn 17, along the pit straight they come. Nico Gerler currently in 4th place. Oscar Tunyo tracking him under braking into turn 1. He picks up a bit of a slipstream. These cars all about downforce. And now into the hairpin, and he makes it stick. Oscar Tunyo, Nico Gerler not really putting up too much of a fight there. In fact, that wasn't a hairpin, that was turn 3. So now we head up towards the hairpin, flat out along the parabolica. Nico Gerler, is he going to make a move back? Well, he has a little look, but Oscar Tunyo has him well covered off. And now that sharp right-hand turn, and then flat out around towards turn 7. And it is Oscar Tunyo who has taken over the 4th place from Nico Gerler. So 4th place. That's pretty good going, considering the issues that Julian Apotelos had at the start of this race. Number 22 car with Max Hacklander at the wheel. works his way through the traffic, once again putting a lap on the Racing Experience Duquesne. But Elio Sperandio 1.6 seconds back, so not really managing to close. But we are keeping one eye on the lead battle. Just Robin Rogowski is now just half a second ahead of Marcus Pommer. So we've got one eye on that as we look at Elio Sperandio just locking up into the corner as he works his way past the number 12 car. So Elio Sperandio is just continuing to push and push, but not really making any inroads into Maximilian Hacklander at the moment. I hope we're going to see the leaders in a bit, because it looks like there may be a challenge for the lead before too long. Robin Rogowski and Marcus Pommer. Well, Pommer is a massively experienced driver, as already mentioned, a 6 times winner in GT Masters. This is not that particular battle that we're looking at. This is, again, the number 12 backmarking car being driven by Kevin Rorschach, and he is in the Racing Experience Duquesne, and very much just picking up the experience as he goes along, but not really challenging anybody at the moment. As you can see from the timing screens, a lovely slide out of the corner. So what is happening with our leaders? That's what we want to know, because first and second are running absolutely as one on the track. We continue to focus on the battle for 7th. Well, make that Elio Sperandio in 8th, and he hasn't caught up with... yes, he has. That is Marco Kasich. So the number 14 car, Marco Kasich, suddenly coming under pressure, and Elio Sperandio working his way forwards and has caught up with Marco Kasich. And I wonder if Kasich had a bit of an issue, because suddenly Sperandio is there and closing in. So Elio Sperandio continuing to challenge the number 14 car with just 12 minutes remaining. He looks to the inside. Marco Kasich, the American driver who has very little experience in LMP3 racing, and he has suddenly got his mirrors full of the young Elio Sperandio. So they fight for 7th place. One eye on the leaders. There is a 10th that has opened up between them, so 6 tenths between first and second. Right, here we go. This is what we wanted to see, isn't it? It's Robin Rogowski and Marcus Pommer. There is your race leader. Pommer has been homing in on Rogowski. It's fair to say that Pommer is a vastly more experienced driver of the two, and looking to raise his profile in Germany. Well, he's doing that at the moment. The number 15 car finished 2nd yesterday, and a win today would put them very firmly at the top of the points, wouldn't it? At the moment, Robin Rogowski holding on to that lead. It was 0.684 last time around. Let's see where it is as they cross the timing beam this time. And it looks as though he's actually opened it up a bit. So Robin Rogowski, that's great driving from him. You've got to get up pretty early in the morning to outfox Marcus Pommer, but that's what he is doing at the moment. In 3rd place, it continues to be Lucas Moron. And now that challenge, Elio Sperandio finds a route past Marco Kasich, relegating the number 14 car down to 8th place. And out towards the Parabolica they go. And Elio Sperandio, good job from him. Great talent. There is the race leader, Robin Rogowski. 2nd place still Marcus Pommer. So he's dropped back a little bit. We're running out of time in this race because we are less than 10 minutes remaining. And the number 77 car has done everything right. It is not the dominant lead that we saw yesterday when Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apotelos pretty well blitzed the entire field. This is a lot closer, isn't it? So out into turn 12 for our race leader. 1.008 was the time last time around. We'll see what it is in a bit. I'll need to head round the Sachs curve and up towards the South Bend. part of the circuit that is very, very slippery. There's a drag strip, and you can see it there, that black area, which you can barely stand up on it. It's so slippery, and it's used as a drag strip throughout the year. And if the drivers get on that, they're in all sorts of problems. So Marcus Pommer has closed up a bit, 0.2 of a second. Now, what can he do? He's 0.846 behind our race leader with a little under 9 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race. The number 77 car still leading the way from the number 15 car. Some 11 and a half seconds back is Lucas Marron, and the other of the JVO cars in 4th place, some 1.7 seconds behind, with Oscar Tunyo at the wheel. And he might have something to say about 3rd place yet, but the lead is far from certain. Marcus Pommer now looking very threatening indeed, as Robin Rogowski has his mirrors full of racing experience. Duqueine D008. It is Duqueine versus Duqueine. That is just 2 of the 8 Duqueines in this race, and they are fighting for the lead. 27 laps and 27 and a half laps in the book, and now the pressure is on for the race lead. 0.846 was the gap last time around. We're coming round into the latter stages of this lap, and we will see whether Pommer has closed it in. By my reckoning, that looks closer than 0.846. I might be wrong. It might just be because of the corner, but we'll find out now as they come out of 17. They cross the line, and we'll see what the gap is, and it's down another 0.2. So Marcus Pommer has taken 0.2 out of the lead on the last 2 laps. Each time he has taken 0.2. If he can do it again on this lap, well, it'll be 0.4, won't it, next time around? That's my maths anyway. So in towards turn 1 they go. So what can Robin Rogowski do to hold off the ever-charging, the ever-impressive Marcus Pommer? Pommer, experience. I remind you again, he has won in GT Masters 6 times. That is the sign of a very talented driver, and he is putting all that skill to good use. He has done many, many hundreds of laps around the Hockenheimring. He knows all the tricks around here, and now he's going to have to pull on all of his experience to see if he can find a route past the DKR Engineering Duqueine that is in front of him. Not as close now as perhaps he was the last time around. 0.617 is that gap. He's got nobody behind him. There is a 12-second gap back to the 3rd place car, so he has the room to make a challenge. Now look at this, the 2 JVO cars also running together. That's Oscar Tunyo in the number 6 car, who has caught up with Lucas Marron. Now, will there be any kind of team orders? I doubt it. I think every driver is running for themselves, but the car with the purple marking is Oscar Tunyo. He took over from Julian Apostolos. They won the race yesterday, caught up in that incident today, having started in 3rd place that dropped them well down the order, now fighting back. So 2 JVO cars. I should think Jorg van Orman will be watching from behind a pillow somewhere out the back of the garage. The 2 cars running together out of turn 17. Along the pit straight they come. So what can Oscar Tunyo do? He is probably the more experienced of the 2 drivers. Lucas Marron, who has done a lot of GT4 racing, fairly new to LMP3, and is still holding off the car that is behind him by 0.3 of a second, 3.5 tenths. You can see the lead gap. Well, it opened up by 1/10, so it is very much the piano accordion effect, as they call it, for 1st and 2nd. But you get the feeling that Pommer is there or thereabouts. Any kind of mistake whatsoever from Robin Rogowski, and that lead is going to change. But at the moment, Rogowski, he's doing everything right. He needs to be careful of the white lines, of the curbing, because one little mistake, Marcus Pommer will not take much invitation to strike, and he will be through and into the lead of the race. But at the moment, well, Robin Rogowski is not putting a foot wrong, and now the JVO cars continue to fight. Tunyo putting the pressure on. Now, of course, the first rule is don't take each other out. Tunyo and Marron running together. very much as one. The two JVO cars fighting for the last of the podium positions, but time is starting to run out. We have a little over 4 minutes of this race remaining, and Lucas Moron taking a very wide line into the corner. And now a look at the lead. Marcus Pommer, he has a little look on the inside of the 77 cars. They head into turn 1. And there's the JVO cars coming out of turn 17. So we've got two really close battles going on, both of them relating to the podium, one of them relating to the race win. This is exciting stuff. It's race 2 of a 12-race season for the Prototype Cup Germany. There is your first place car, the orange, blue and black car that is being driven by Robin Rogowski for DKR Engineering. In second place, the black and red Racing Experience Duqueine with Marcus Pommer at the wheel. Looking hungry now with 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race. He closes in 0.3 of a second. Is the gap between first and second. 0.4 is the gap between third and fourth. Which one should we watch? Well, this one at the moment, because Oscar Tunyo now pulls alongside Robin Rogowski. It's a drag race. Rogowski has the legs at the moment, but still he holds on. The lead has changed. Whilst we were looking at that, the lead has changed. It's Marcus Pommer who takes over from Robin Rogowski. We knew that this could so easily happen. And there's also a change further back. It looks like Oscar Tunyo has also got past Lucas Moron. So the two positions changing pretty well simultaneously. We didn't know which one to look at. And it is a new leader of this race. It is Marcus Pommer, along with Gary Hauser, who lead the way in the Racing Experience Duqueine with 2.5 minutes remaining. And I would suggest that Rogowski really does not have anything in his pocket that he can offer back to Marcus Pommer. So apart from a mechanical failure or mistake, it's looking pretty solid for the number 15 car. We've also got that change that we saw further back. Oscar Tunyo finding a route past the fellow JVO Racing Duqueine being driven by Lucas Moron. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, it all changed in the closing stages, didn't it? The number 8 car, Nico Gerler, a little way back, and then it is Maximilian Hacklander, who's found his way up to 6th place ahead of the Elio Sperandio car, Elia Sperandio, to get the pronunciation right, in the number 35 car. And behind him is Marco Kasich, who took over from Jan Marszałkowski. At the Hockenheimring, there is just 90 seconds plus 1 lap remaining for the number 15 of Marcus Pommer. And he has really left Robin Rogowski in his wake, hasn't he, as he's pulled away. Look at the gap that he's opened up in that 1 lap. Really very rapid indeed. He picked his time to perfection and took over the lead. That car started second on the grid in the hands of Gary Hauser, and when Marcus Pommer took over, we knew it was going to be trouble as he comes out. Now that 0.9 of a second that it was last time they crossed the timing beam, well, that's going to be significantly increased now, and it is a 2.2 seconds. So Pommer utterly stamping his authority on this race in the final minute of timed racing. And then we will be into the +1 lap. So Pommer very much in a comfortable position. He's done all that he needed to do, having taken over the wheel of that car from Gary Hauser. The Racing Experience Duqueine do 8, looking mighty. We're always going to be championship favourites coming into this season, and very much stamping their authority. And with the second place from yesterday, that is going to be pretty dominant in terms of championship standings. We're looking at the Danny Sufi car. So he was into the pits earlier. Looks like whatever it was has been sorted and being tracked by Jakob Erlbacher in the number 70 car as well. The clock has struck 0, so our race leader is currently out around turn 12. So we'll cross the line once more, and then it will be the additional lap that is left for our race leader, Marcus Pommer. We continue to look at the fight for fourth place. That is the number 5 car in the hands of Lucas Moron, and certainly I'd say that Nico Gerler hasn't given up on taking that position away. Right, here we go, the final lap of the race. And it is Marcus Pommer who leads the 77 car of Robin Rogowski in this closing stages. In third place, Oscar Tunyo, a great comeback after a troubled start to the race there. Here's a fight, Pommer, Tunyo, Apotelos, and of course Gary Hauser. The 4 of them are going to be scrapping for the rest of this season. You know that. The fight for fourth place is not over though. It is still Lucas Moron at the moment, but Nico Gerler, well, he's got about half a lap to do something about that. And I think the time is running out as they head towards the hairpin for the last time. You get the feeling that there's probably not a lot that can be done about stealing away that fourth place. We also continue to look at Maximilian Hacklander, and also the other of the Conrad Motorsport cars being driven by Danny Sufi. Here is the second place car though, and there is our race leader into turn 12 for the very last time out towards Sachs Curve. Also turn 13 as it is known, and into turn 14 for the very final time. Just a couple more corners left. It has been a crushing performance from Marcus Pommer in the closing stages of this race. He has taken the lead and he has dominated from there out onto the pit straight, and it is Marcus Pommer along with Gary Hauser who wins a race 2 of the season for Racing Experience here at the Hockenheimring. Second place across the line, Robin Rogowski. In third place, Oscar Tunyo, and in fourth, the other of the JVO racing cars with Lucas Moron at the wheel. Nico Gerler, well, he put up quite a fight towards the end, but couldn't find a route past. The 22 car of Maximilian Hacklander, along with Sebastian von Gartzen in 6th place. And I'd say shout out to Ilya Sparendio, who just fought back from the back of the grid to 7th place, which is very impressive. He's matched what he finished yesterday, and yesterday he started much further up the grid, although that 7th place was as a result of a penalty that was added to his time as well. We've still got a few more cars to cross the line, including Danny Sufi in the number 2 car for Conrad Motorsport, and also there the Gebhardt Motorsport Ginetta with Jakob Erlbacher at the wheel. We look back towards the number 12 car with Kevin Rorscheit at the wheel as well. But there is the second place, Robin Rogowski. Valentino Catalano did a great job putting the car on pole position. They couldn't quite gather it together to convert that into a win, but second place, good by any standards, I would say. But there is your race winner, Marcus Pommer, the name that we have mentioned so many times in the past and continues to make the headlines. As we mentioned at the top of the show, he really wanted to get himself back on German media, having been away in the ELMS for a few years, and he's done exactly that. The top step of the podium. There is no better way of getting into the spotlight. There's Oscar Tunyo. Couldn't quite make it into another win today. Yesterday's winner, along with Julian Apotelos, would love to have seen what they could have done had it not been for that first lap incident up on the hairpin, where they were pointed in the wrong direction. But there is confirmation of the race 2 for the Prototype Cup Germany here at the Hockenheimring. And you can see it was Marcus Pommer at the wheel ahead of Robin Rogowski, Oscar Tunyo, Lucas Moron, Nico Gerler, Max Hacklander, Elio Sparandio and Marco Kasich rounding out the top 8. In 9th place was Max van der Snel, and Dino Steiner ahead of Danny Sufi, Jakob Erlbacher, and the last of the finishers, Kevin Rohrscheidt. Non-finishers, well, Martin Anderson, some issues there, and Matthias Luton, who also never actually got out of the blocks, so issues for the Quarren Kempe Motorsport car. And we will see them again at the next round of that, we have no doubt. It says last lap on the screen. It is, in fact, now race finished, and silence once again falls on the Hockenheimring circuit. Let's take a look at some highlights from race 2 here at Hockenheim. So an action-packed race, and just a little look at that and you realise how much you can squeeze into 55 minutes plus 1 lap. What a lovely view of the Rhine Valley near Hockenheim in Baden-Württemberg. And this legendary circuit, you look over to the left, you can almost see the old circuit. That's it from us. We'll see you at Oschersleben on the 26th to the 28th of May.